people fight. That's going to
Sure,
happen.
of course.
Relationships are destined to have their
Mhm.
problems and ups and downs. I think the best ones are the ones that can resolve them without
There has
leaving resentment
Correct.
behind, leaving chaos in the wake.
We need grace and we need forgiveness,
Again, easier said than done, right?
of course. But when you give that, I think you get it back twofold, threefold, fourfold.
It does come back. Yeah, that's the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Divorce and Conquer. I'm your host, Joe Staszak. Joining me today, a renowned therapist in the area, Katie Young. How are you, Katie?
Hi, Joe. I'm good.
Good to
Thanks
see
for
you.
having me
Thanks
here.
for coming on the show. Talking about relationships.
Mhm.
And to me, the biggest problem in relationships, in my humble but expert opinion, emotions and ego.
Ego.
Okay,
Yeah.
emotions. When you get emotional, you make bad decisions. A lot of people do that because they're mad, they're angry, they're upset, and
Mhm. Disappointed.
I'm disappointed.
Mhm.
There's a plethora of emotions you go
Mhm.
through, and then you make a decision based on it. How many times did the next day you say, I'm glad I made that decision when I was mad? No, it doesn't work that way. And then your ego gets involved, not the ego. And I've talked about this before that, like, oh, I'm the greatest this, I'm the best look at this, the richest this. Your inner ego causes problems. Is that what you see? Am I in the right
Well, sure.
ballpark
And I
with
think
that?
what you're saying ego, and I would say pride,
Pride,
right?
hubris,
Yes.
hubris.
Yeah. That gets in the way.
Hmm.
We don't want to be humble or vulnerable because a lot of people equate vulnerability with weakness,
Weakness.
when in fact it's a strength.
Okay. Okay. Before we go on, tell me how vulnerability is a strength,
So
and
let
then
me ask you something. So
yes,
you've been married before, you've
twice.
had relationships, you've had relationships with your children, other family members, friends. If someone comes to you and makes themselves humble and apologizes to you, and they're really vulnerable and
That's
open,
attractive.
thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I
Okay.
see how she did.
Right?
You walk down that rabbit hole. Okay, you're
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And it makes you want to bring them closer, not push
Absolutely.
them away, not take advantage. I mean, unless you're not
Normal
a,
people.
yeah, well, you're
Right.
not a sociopath. So,
Well,
yeah, well,
remains to be seen. Depend who you ask. Okay. Good. So be vulnerable. Be
mhm,
humble.
be
I think that's
humble.
huge to be humble.
Yeah.
So easier said than done.
Well, obviously, everything is.
Well, then how do we train ourselves? Because to me, it is a process and it takes a lot of reps. It takes a lot of focus. To me,
Takes
it's hard work.
it
It's
takes
work
risk, right?
and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
risk.
Well, this is the stuff you're supposed to iron out before you get married, right? And
It would have been good to know, but go ahead.
well, I'm sorry, I didn't know you back
It's
then. So, can I ask, if you don't mind me asking a personal
sure.
question? What would you have done differently in your marriage?
Everything.
Oh God. Can we
Yeah.
can we narrow that down a little bit?
Ego got in the way. Here's a lot of ego, making emotional decisions,
Mhm.
not being able to forgive and let go. A
Oh,
lot of the
that's a
stuff
big
from
one.
the dating period bled over into the relationship, and I had a hard time getting past certain things, and it
Okay.
caused some turmoil. Once that was passed, maybe something else came up that was a
Mm,
offshoot of that, and the egos. And again, I can only speak for myself. I'm not going to bury anyone here,
mhm.
but people fight. That's going to
Sure,
happen.
of course.
Relationships are destined to have their
Mhm.
problems and ups and downs. I think the best ones are the ones that can resolve them without
There has
leaving resentment
Correct.
behind, leaving chaos in the wake.
We need grace and we need forgiveness,
Again, easier said than done, right?
of course. But when you give that, I think you get it back twofold, threefold, fourfold.
It does come back. It
It
really does.
does.
But people, again, short-sighted,
Mhm. Yes.
emotional bursts. And to me, not a huge fan of my former program director at,
Oh.
no, he's a nice guy. But what I did like what he did, some things I didn't like, but he would send out a little memo before the weekend. I worked a lot of weekends there, and he said some insightful things. One thing he said, talked about anger
Mhm.
and having anger issues where he says, I've never, ever once the next day thought, that was good that I did that.
Mm.
You know, leaving someone, undressing someone verbally, or you just,
Right.
laying into some. And I thought about that. Like, I can't remember a time where I laid into someone and then the next day felt good about it.
So true.
Maybe even 10 minutes later, I
Yeah.
defused very quickly.
Yeah.
So those are the things I would have done differently. I would not have let the ego, the pride, I was
Needing to be
disrespected. I was,
right. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Well, see, I don't fight unless I'm right. Okay. I don't know. I don't, because if
Okay.
I'm wrong, I'll be the first to say I'm
Okay.
wrong. You know why? If someone's hammering you,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I was wrong. What are they going to say? That often diffuses real quickly. Instead of trying to, deflect or avoid or point the finger or pull the thumb, okay. Oftentimes that's otherwise when I'm right, and yes, I'm a right fighter. I don't know why. This is one thing I would have done differently, is because what did I prove by being right? Nothing.
Here's the problem with that.
The other person usually knows that you're right too, just doesn't want to admit it. So what are we
Correct.
going to do? There's not going to be like a scoreboard. There's not going to be like a jury or
But
judge saying he's right.
there is between the two of you. And if you're right, the other one's wrong. And is that really how you want your partner to feel in a relationship? You win, they lose.
No, but I
Right.
guess the reason why we do that is I want that person to understand why I
That's
have
a
a
good point.
problem with, and to understand that. So when you say winning or losing, I would consider a win. That person gets what I'm talking about. That person says, okay, maybe you were, maybe I should have.
So how
But
about
oftentimes it gets taken way too far.
here's what happens a lot of times when somebody's emotional, the other person tends to use logic to explain why they did something or why you shouldn't feel a particular way. And they think by being practical and laying out facts
Mhm.
that will diffuse you. It's the opposite. If you think about if someone's up here,
Mhm.
what we're looking for is for someone to match
Mhm.
us up here. So we're going to raise our voices, up the language, right? Because we want to be engaged. And then the best thing to do is not try to talk somebody out of something, but to disarm them. And that's validation. Validation.
We talked
Validation.
about that in
We talked about it.
pre-show.
Yes.
Validation.
And validation is not agreement. I'm going to say it again. Validation is not agreement. If you say to your partner,
Is it
I
empathy? Are you empathizing with that
you
person's?
can, but you're going to start out by saying, I completely understand why you're upset. I was late by 20 minutes. I know you like to be on time. I get it. Notice, I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm not saying you're right. I'm saying I understand. Makes sense. It's really disarming. I don't work with couples, I work with individuals. Every once in a while, I'll have someone I'm working with who wants to bring in their partner over a specific issue, and I teach them a specific dialogue called the IMAGO dialogue.
The IMAGO.
IMAGO.
Where did that come
Footnote.
from? Okay.
Let's do footnote on
Okay.
that. And I watch them, and they start out like this, and they're all up on their haunches.
Which one? The guy
Both
got
of them,
okay.
both of them, right? And
Uh-huh.
they're angry, and then all you start out is like, you state your case. This is why I'm upset, and the other person just has to mirror that back. So what I'm hearing is, you're upset because I come home late often, and this makes you worry, and then it makes you angry. Did I get that right? Yes. And then I start to see them sort of like settle in the chair, and they soften. And next thing you know, somebody's got their hand on the other person's knee. We want to be heard. It's not, you talked about being a right fighter. I think you probably didn't need to feel right, but you needed to feel heard.
Heard is
Yes,
the
feel
correct
heard.
answer. But you also don't want that person to, okay, good. You hear me now? You got it? Okay, good. I would appreciate it if this didn't happen again. Is that implied?
Good question. I always say, let's bring things back down. You can always have a conversation afterwards, like, hey, I didn't tell you all the details. I was late because my boss pulled me off to the side. I couldn't get out and I couldn't text you, and I'm so sorry. That's when the other person can hear it. And you might say, okay, in the future, could you send me a text 10 minutes before you're leaving? There's some kind of negotiation that can
Sure.
happen, right? Again, both feeling heard and understood.
Why isn't that self-evident? That sounds very simplistic in
They don't
its
teach that in high
purest
school.
form.
They should,
Does it need
right?
to be taught? I mean, that sounds
Yes.
so.
Did you see that model when you were growing up? I didn't.
You're just talking about my parents and see that
Sure, like,
kind of my
yeah,
role models and how they
yeah,
acted. Well,
probably not. They didn't have the skills.
I don't remember, that was a while ago. But I know some people do learn from, and not positive necessarily, but they learn negative behavior.
More so than positive,
Wouldn't
right?
you think that them seeing it as negative behavior would make them want to?
Well, if you don't know that there's something different, then this is what you follow.
Okay, so what's the rule number one?
Yeah.
You're not in a therapist's office. You
Okay.
don't go to see someone as highly regarded as you, or as good at their job as you, and you're trying to hammer this out
Mhm,
behind closed doors, in your own house.
mhm.
What's the best way to go about problem solving, problem resolving? What word do you use for it?
Well, you're talking about people who have a lot of conflict and
Yeah, if there's
can't seem to.
conflict, yeah,
Okay.
can't seem to
Um,
get on the same page. Or
Simpler is better. Um, I have to say this: women tend to we're more verbal, and we like to storytell. Men are problem solvers, so you know, your wife comes in and goes, "I'm the fucking boss, that this, and she," at that, and you're
get to the point.
get
What's
to
the
the point,
problem? You
or
have a
let me
heart.
solve the problem.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well,
Uh-huh.
we don't want you to solve the problem. We just want you to listen. And
Why? I want to solve the problem so you won't feel like this anymore. Is that
I'm
anyone
gonna
out there? A little
I'm
help?
going to tell
Little
you
help?
why. Because it's how we connect.
Why is this a gender thing?
It's not always.
Not always.
It's not always, but if you just I saw you kind of light up when we talked about feeling heard,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what
Feeling
she
heard.
wants. Feeling
Exactly.
heard, right? It's not about solving a problem like, you just need to start 15 minutes earlier, or you need to tell her off. It's I'm listening to you because you matter and I'm here. Keep talking.
Being present. I talked
Present.
about that with Bob Anderson, how
Yes.
important that
Yep.
is. Above all else, as a great gift to someone in a relationship. Be present.
Yes.
Just listen.
Yes. And we also talked about, how we're on our best behavior when we're dating.
I was just going to get there. Go
Right.
ahead. Go ahead.
Aren't we such good girlfriends and boyfriends when we're dating? Yes. We stop doing that so often, right? All those nice little things, whether she, does her hair, doesn't wear yoga pants, it
Because the
comes
payoff isn't as big, or because there's no
because
risk,
there's not the threat of loss.
but there's no, what's the upside of it either? There's no, there's plenty of upside about doing
Yes.
something nice for someone, but why does that get lost then? There's still plenty of upside. You do something nice for someone,
What's your question?
being the good boyfriend. Like, why does that? What do I get out
You're
of
going to
it
get
in
more in
a
return.
in a relationship, a girlfriend boyfriend
Yeah.
versus a marriage?
I'm just
Are we saying when we hit marriage, we kind of hit the finish line, sort
No,
of, and now we're
I'm
like, all right, cool.
generalizing. I'm generalizing. We tend to look. We sort of take each other for granted. That's human nature. We tend to let things go that we put effort into earlier on. I'm saying just do it. We do that for our friends.
You've heard of Always Be Closing ABC. I referred to it
Is that a
in,
guy thing?
I think, well, it's a sales thing, sure. Oh, no, that's not. I see it just hit me. That one just hit me. That was good. No, I referred to it in one of the first episodes as ABD, always be dating. I think you should always continue to date.
So why are you giving me a hard time?
I'm not. Well,
You
because I
sort of
like
were.
to. It's my job. No, but I think you're right. Always be dating.
Yeah.
You got to constantly be dating. To
Does-
me, that's fun too. That's
I
that's
know.
fun.
I
Wasn't it
know.
fun when you were
Yes.
dating, actually dating? So
Yeah.
why can't you? One thing I always look forward to in marriage, either one, was the date night. The date night was always fun.
Exactly.
I came around on Valentine's Day because I think it's fine. But I used to have some thoughts on Valentine's Day. It was a date night. It was almost a mandated. It was great. Why not just enjoy that as a date night? Forget about calling it a Hallmark holiday and
I
whatever.
know.
So again, I don't know why we lose that.
Because life gets in the way of life.
So wouldn't you say that I'm going to take you in a place that we haven't talked about before? I used to tease my second wife that when she was pretty gung ho on getting married from day one. Maybe not marrying me, but we got married.
No, she
And
married you.
I was like, well, and she was like pushing for like, let's, make this a thing and live together. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this thing's good right now. Like
She wanted
you have a nice
security.
house there. I'm cool at my house.
Right.
And when we see each other, we're cool. I think this is, I don't know if it's Neanderthalic by nature, but when you do become one and
Mm-hmm.
you create more problems arise because of the proximity, the
Expectations
mortgages, the
change.
kids,
Yes.
all that
Sure.
stuff.
Yes.
I've heard, and again, I was joking about it back then, but I heard people do that now. They are married and they actually live in different houses.
Yes.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So I was
It's
a
not the worst
visionary
thing.
in a way. Would you say, huh? I came up with that idea first. So what do you think of that?
I joked about that, where women should live communally because we get along very well together. There's like this harmony, and you can have conjugal visits.
Conjugal visit,
I don't think
right?
that's a bad thing.
No, it's kind
Yeah.
of like
Look,
the
it's one
county
option,
jail.
one of many.
All right, now let's talk about, because I want to get back to knowing the consequences, laying out the consequences, because
Oof.
you are a big proponent
I
in
am.
if you're, weighing your options here. And I talked about this in one of maybe the first episode, because I think it hit December 22nd. You're not gonna hit a grand slam with no men on base and just you up. You're not gonna solve it in 3 days. So have fun, enjoy, and think about the consequences and know that, again, you're thinking right now, maybe screw this, I don't want to see it again, but I'll be glad to be alone and we'll share the kids, blah, blah, blah. George Bailey, you are not. This isn't It's a Wonderful Life where you get the second chance. So how can you talk people down to really kind of play the tape to the end is what I call the first episode.
It's really hard to do that because by the time they get to me, there's so much distress
because of emotion. Didn't we talk about emotion?
Well, of course, you're not going to be in a relationship without emotion, but they've built their case, right? And they're right. And most times they're looking for the other person to make it better rather than what did I do to contribute to the problem? What can I do to contribute to the solution? And it's hard to get people to say that. So what I do is I'll go, well, if I had this other person in the room, what would they tell me about you? And then I get the truth. Oh, well, this and this and this and this. I'm like, okay, now I know. But I can't sway people in work. I can't do that, but I wish I could tell them it's worth the fight. It's worth the work. It's worth putting the ego aside, the anger aside, the resentment, because outside, I've been divorced for many, many, many years. And I had no idea how long the collateral damage would continue. It's
you don't even see half of it when you get into it. You don't even, there's so much ripple effect.
There is. And people can tell you, oh, Joan, it's this. And you go, no, I know better. I need relief. I don't want to be in this anymore. But I shared with you, my son was married 5 years ago, and it was physically painful for me to be at that wedding reception and watch his dad's dad was remarried for years, more kids, and I'm on the outside looking in on my son's wedding. I did that because I was selfish, because I thought, you're not making me happy. I'd rather be by myself, or I'm going to find somebody else. I live with that every day.
You wanted that person to make you happy. Would you, if we went back to a younger Katie Young, would you think that, would this be a fair statement from your mouth to your husband at the time, your job is to make me happy? Because I always think or thought that it is, I've heard that before, or it's not my job to make you happy. I always think it is kind of my job. I want to make that, I'm here to make you happy. Otherwise, what are you doing? Go get a mannequin.
I hear you. I hear you.
So, don't you think if everyone went in with the philosophy is part of my job description is to make you happy? Is that inherently true, or?
Yes, it should.
Because I hear couples say to each other, it's not my job to make you happy.
My mindset is in a relationship, I want to wake up and make you happy that you're in a relationship with me. How about that?
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
But that's splitting hairs, kind of the same thing, right? I'm
Mhm.
not talking about
Yeah.
specific, but
Right. I'm I, I'm not responsible for your
I hear that a lot. I'm not
yeah,
responsible for your happiness.
for your happiness, but I'm responsible for how I show up in the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? And am I being a good partner? And I wasn't
How would you assess yourself now if you were in a relationship and you are as a partner? And
much. Oh God,
why is
so
that? Just
different.
experience and time
Yes,
and wisdom? Because
all of that.
I think kids
Yes.
are stupid by definition, and as you get older,
Yeah.
no offense, I was one.
Were you pointing to me when you said
What? Yeah,
that?
maybe.
Okay.
But I think as you get older, like I deal with a lot of professional athletes who are
Hmm.
idiots in their prime, 25 years old, 20. I see them now, they're retired,
Yeah.
they're the nicest guys, they're humble,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
Yes.
with age comes
Of
wisdom, and it
course.
also comes,
Absolutely.
and you can't teach experience.
No. Mm-mm.
So do you think, is there an age that might be too young for people to try to handle
So there's a
a marriage
statistic that
thing?
if your chances of staying married, not getting divorced, are increased by I don't know how many fold if you wait until you're 28.
28. Okay.
28 seems to be the magic number.
Even that's a little young, but I see we're
I
under
know. Well,
28.
when
I'm like,
you're,
what? Yeah,
you know,
right. When you're us. Great seeing you. Thanks for being part
thank
of this.
you.
You
I
wanted to
appreciate it. I
talk
hope
about,
this helps one person, honestly.
well, it helped me because I needed a guest. No, I'm just Katie Young from, you want to talk
Turning
about,
Point Psychotherapy
right?
Associates. We're in Exton, Pennsylvania. Um, Website turningpointassociates.net. Look us up.
Have a happy Christmas.
Thank you,
We're taping
Joe.
this before
Thank you.
Christmas. I
Same to you.
appreciate you coming
Appreciate
today.
this.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
folks.
Okay.
Enjoy. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Again, give us a 5-star rating on Apple and iTunes if you can. And again, catch us next week on Divorce and Conquer. Again, I'm your host, Joe Staszak. Katie Young was my guest today. Appreciate it. Have a great Christmas, and I'll talk to you on the side.